Well, today we're going to dive right into part 3 of this series that I'm doing on the DNT NVMD-C200 multi-purpose optic. Now, if you've just stumbled on this video and you have not watched part 1 or part 2, I suggest you go back and watch that first, because we went over all the specs of this optic, we went over all the different packages they offer for this optic, and I also did a dedicated video on how to navigate the menu. But today we're going to head out to the range and we're going to use this as a standalone optic. I'm going to show you how to zero this optic, and we're going to run it through a bunch of different scenarios. So with that out of the way, let's head out to the range and have some fun. Alright guys, we're at the Crawford County Sportsman's Club, and I'm going to show you how to zero this optic in. Now I've got a target set up in front of me at 15 yards. I'm only putting a 15-yard zero on this right now because the next test I'm going to do with this optic, that's all I need. And being a little closer to the target, it's going to be easier for me to show you guys what's going on inside this optic when we're zeroing it. So I've got the optic recording. I've already got my reticle picked out. I showed you guys how to do that in the last video. So now what we got to do is get it zeroed. I've got some 110 grain, 300 blackout loaded up here. I'm just going to aim for the dead center of the target, and we'll see where our bullet impacts. I'm going to zoom you guys in. You can see that we hit low right. So we're going into the menu. Okay, you just saw the scope mode pop up. Now we're already in scope mode, and that's what we want to be in. We're going to scroll down to zeroing. Now we're going to click that button. Okay, and now you just saw the menu pop up that says zeroing profiles. So what we're going to do is go down to X, and X is going to move us left and right. So what we want to do is keep our reticle right on the center of the target. We're going to move over till I'm right above that impact. Okay, now we're going to hit the button again, just a quick tap. Now we're going down to Y. Now this is going to move us up and down. So now I want to move down to that impact. Okay, right there. We're going to click on that, and we're going down to save. All right, now we've saved it. We're going to go back up to the center of our bullseye, and let's see where we hit. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, and as you can see, there is our impact, right off to the left of the bullseye. So now we're going to have to make one more adjustment. So we're going to go back and we're going to long press, get into the menu, going to go down to zeroing, and all we're going to have to do here is adjust our windage with X. I'm going to click on that, I'm going to go down to save. Let's try it again. Okay, I went too far. Now when I did this off camera, it sure went a lot smoother than this. Back to zeroing again. Click that, go down to X, light tap. We're going to go to save, and let's see if we got it this time. That's pretty good. Let's fire another one. Looks like we put them all in the same hole. All right, guys, I wanted to give you a close-up of this target. So this was our first shot. We made our adjustments. That was our second shot. And then I adjusted the windage too far to the right. And this was our third. I brought it back in, and as you can see, we've got about a 1-hole group with about 5 rounds right here. I'm going to call that good. All right, so zeroing this optic was not that hard, but there was one function that I did not use in that menu, and that was the freeze function. Now, even though I'm no expert on night vision, I'm no stranger to it either. I do have a couple ATN scopes that I used to use years ago when I was coyote hunting, so I basically zeroed this just like I would one of those. But if you decide to use that freeze function, basically what you're going to do is take your first shot and you're going to freeze that image, and then you're going to move the reticle to your point of impact. But either way, I was real happy with how easy it was to zero. I might have been able to take a couple less shots if I would have used the freeze function, but either way, I got this dialed in right where I wanted it. All right, so it's definitely weird transitioning from target to target. Now, if I was out here with an LPVO or a red dot or a prism, I can go a lot faster, but there is a little bit of lag going from target to target. All right, we're downrange. I want to show you the targets. So we've got 6 of our shots in the A zone on the first target, but we got 4 right out here in the C zone. So what's happening is when I'm transitioning from one target to the next, there's just a little bit of lag, and I'm just throwing these rounds a little too fast. Now this target's a little better. We've got all our shots in the A zone. We got one right here that's a Charlie, right below the perf, and then we've got one just a little outside the perf. So they tightened up a little better here. All right, on that target that we had a tighter group, I had a couple tires sitting on that target stand to keep it from moving around. I didn't have any on the other target. So I went and grabbed a couple more tires, threw them on the target stand. That should keep that a little more stationary. Now, what I'm going to do this time is I've thrown our DNT optic into the green phosphor mode so you can kind of see what it's going to look like if you're out shooting at night. So we're going to run that same drill again and see if we can tighten these up a little bit. All right, let's go down and see what we got. All right, I've already seen both targets, and this is definitely an improvement. Now, we've got all these shots in the A zone, but we do have 2 Charlies right here. All right, then we move to the next target, and I actually have all alphas, and it's actually a lot tighter group than the last time around. So I'm really liking this. Maybe I ought to just leave it in the green phosphor mode. All right, so transitioning from target to target took a little getting used to. Now, you heard me use that term lag, and maybe that was the wrong term to use, but I just didn't seem to have the speed that I would have looking through a red dot or an LPVO, where all I'm doing is looking through a piece of glass. But the more I shot those transitions from target to target, I was speeding up a little bit, and I seemed to be a little bit faster when I had it in green phosphor mode instead of full color mode. So all in all, this will work for shots like that. It's just going to take a little practice and a little getting used to. Now, I know the question's going to come up, why wasn't I running a muzzle brake or a suppressor on the gun? And the reason for that was I grabbed my anechoic 35L box thinking the suppressor was in the box, but I actually forgot that it was on another gun in my safe. So that's the reason there's no muzzle brake or suppressor on my 300 Blackout. All right, let's head back out to the range because I got a couple other things I want to do with this optic. All right, guys, I went ahead and set my bench up at 50 yards. I got a new target down there. Now, I already zeroed the optic for 50 yards. I already showed you how to zero the optic, so I didn't want to bore you with that. What I want to do now is show you the zoom feature, and I want to shoot a 5-shot group with this, and I also want to show you how you can fine-tune the image that you're looking at. But right now, we're at 50 yards and 1x. Now, if you adjust your focus ring here in the front, right now I got it dialed in perfect. But if I turn it a little to the left, now you can see it is all distorted. We got her nice and crisp again. We go a little to the right, we start to lose the image. So what's really nice on this is you can fine tune that image to make it look really, really good. All right, now I'm going to show you the zoom function here. So now we're at 2x. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the group here at 2x. All right, there's our 5-shot group. Now we're going to move up to 3x. So it's a little distorted there. So let's see if we can focus and clean that up a bit. There we go. That looks like about as good as it's going to get. Let's go to 4x. Try to clean it up. I can see all my shots now. And there's 5, and it's starting to get pretty grainy. That's about the best I can clean it up right there. And there's 6x. It's not the greatest at 5 and 6 power, but you can focus it in pretty good. All right, let's head down there and look at the target. All right, well, I'm happy with this. We've got 2 in the same hole. These 3 are touching, and 2 right here. I'm going to guess that's about 1.25 inches, maybe 1.5 inch group, which, looking through digital night vision, I'll take that. Now, like I said, I zeroed this for 50 yards. Technically, we need to move down just a little bit, but that's shooting so good, I'm just going to leave it alone. All right, I got another test I want to try. I've got 2 steel targets set up down there at 50 yards. They're on both corners, so they're pretty far apart. I want to fire 2 shots at one steel plate, transition to another. I've got some 220 grain subsonic reloads in here. They're safe to shoot here in the bay, but I don't have my suppressor, which sucks, but it is what it is. Now, what I want to try to simulate here is if you were on a stand and you shot one pig or a coyote and you had to transition over to another one, or maybe they're moving, I just want to see how well this optic's going to track from steel plate to steel plate. All right, now I'm going to switch you over to the camera on the optic, and here we go. I got a malfunction. Nice. One of those reloads didn't want to feed, but other than that, we got all our hits. All right, so this optic continues to impress me. Now, I've had a few people ask me about the eye relief on this, which I already went over when I brought the spec sheet up in one of the last videos, but these are probably people who only have a TikTok attention span. But the eye relief on this is 2.6 inches. So if you're using this as a standalone optic or a magnifier behind a red dot, you are going to have to move it pretty far back on your gun. Now, one other thing I want to mention is even though I'm showing you the recordings through this optic in the video, it's not what you're going to see when you're actually looking through this optic. It actually looks quite a bit better because this optic only records in 1080p and all my videos here on YouTube are 4K. But all in all, I'm really happy with this as a standalone optic. Now be on the lookout for part 4, which will air a week from today, and we're going to take it to the range and use it as a magnifier, and we're also going to use it in my favorite mode, and that's clip-on mode, where we're going to put it in front of an LPVO. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.